Hello, and welcome to The Mohit Show. Today I'll be covering stories from r/detrans, a well-moderated subreddit for people questioning, desisting, or detransitioning. I will be protecting the identities of these posters since individuals in this community have been harassed when their stories have been discussed. Now to this video's first post, titled, Absolutely Sick of the Relentless Pandering to Trans Ideology. To suggest that transitioning is anything other than a life-saving, beautiful, and risk-free choice nowadays is sticking your neck out in the worst way. People like me who have had their lives ruined as kids by being allowed to medically transition unnecessarily are just being railroaded by the narrative that nobody regrets it and denying kids the opportunity to transition will make them kill themselves. It's effing ridiculous, and hardly anybody is willing to acknowledge the simple fact that we are experimenting on kids with no proof that it'll make them any happier in the long run. How long will it take for people to realize that a lot of the time this is a calculated and sinister plot to make money after lifelong medicalization of an otherwise healthy child, starting to brainwash them to believe they can change their sex as a kid before they can even understand what they're doing to themselves? It's sickening. From the comments. One commenter says, yeah, people think that anyone who transitions was born in the wrong body, instead of understanding the insanely complex ways that we all have some sort of gender dysphoria, just manifesting in different ways and either fed or healed in different ways by different people. I heard on the radio the other day the heartwarming story of a mother and her trans son who recently came out at 3 years old. The issue is people believe that it's something you're born with and not a myriad of complex interpersonal issues. Another commenter adds, the heart of the problem isn't a sinister plot or conspiracy. It's simply human inclination to rationalize what makes us feel proud and gains us praise or success. Lobotomy doctors weren't rubbing their hands together evilly and raking in cash while laughing. They were told by reputable people that it was the future, and they believed that they were doing good and were proud of their earned financial success. The human ego just can't change momentum on something like that easily, but biases can deepen quickly. Another commenter adds, yeah, a new show just came out on Netflix, Dead End Paranormal Park. And I was interested. It reminded me of Gravity Falls. Description: a trans boy escapes to a park where people will accept him for who he is. And then, in the show, it's explained why this is. Female to male trans person ran away from home. Are you ready for this? His mother accepted him and used the correct pronouns. His father accepted him and used the correct pronouns. But the grandparent said something mean, and the parents didn't stand up over this one mean comment at the dinner table. That's it. That in this show justifies running away from home and create this entire fantasy of being yourself at a haunted park. So yeah, this show pretty much tells the audience that you are evil and wrong for ever questioning the identity of a trans person. And if you don't stand up to defend them, even when they are 12 to 13 in this show, I think, you are just as evil, and this kid was right to run away from home. That's the message here. And of course, it's all on a comic by a self-proclaimed queer author. As a lot of people have pointed out, there are trans, gays, and lesbians on all sides of the political spectrum. Only the far left calls themselves queer. But yeah, this is a kids show on Netflix for little kids, obviously trying to normalize this beautiful thing and saying parents are evil if they are not defending it because the kid is always right. And these people are obviously just ignoring the real-life consequences of these ill-informed decisions. And also, that kids are super impressionable and will pretend to be all kinds of things. When I was a kid, I pretended I was a Pokemon trainer and had actual Pokemon following me around, and I could talk to and communicate with. And I imagined myself as Jack Sparrow, though I'm a female. This is not for kids, and people who consider going through it needs to be well informed over the risks. A commenter replies to this. These kids are not far left. They think they're communists, but they have never read Marxist theory in their lives. Being socialist or communist for them is exactly like being queer, a cute aesthetic and a denominator that doesn't mean anything. And another commenter adds as well, I wish I was surprised at that plotline, but unfortunately, it's all too common. The trans community encourages you to cut off people who doesn't immediately accept your newfound trans identity, because clearly, they're evil transphobic people who don't want you to be happy. Never mind if they have valid concerns. I remember being like that too at the start of my transition, brushing off any mention of alternative options or the possibility of regret because they just don't understand. Kids have always been like that, imaginative and stubborn, convinced they know best and how they feel now can't possibly be a phase. It's supposed to be the job of adults to oversee that and make sure it doesn't spill over into thoughtless and reckless decision that will negatively impact your life in pretty much every way territory. But that's transphobic now. Another person comments on the original post. It's so weird to me how deeply entrenched people are in this ideology. Even the people who aren't trans-identified. How can you sleep at night knowing you're defending the mutilation of people's bodies for a delusional fantasy? You can have all the cross hormones, surgeries, and screaming whatever bull-ass pronouns you want, but it doesn't change reality. It's already effed up, and evil to spread this lie to people who are miserable with their self-image, but it's worse to do it to kids. Sorry you were a victim to the trans machine. Another commenter adds, and then when you're finally able to come to terms with reality, you're made out to be the bad guy for not wanting other people to have their lives ruined for nothing. It's total insanity now to even dare suggest people let their natural development play out before considering altering yourself permanently. They might kill themselves, remember? Never mind the people who will inevitably kill themselves once the full gravity of the situation they're in becomes clear to them as adults or mentally healthy people. On to the next post, titled, I ruined my whole entire life. I can't think about anything else. All I can think about is how I shouldn't have done this, how I've made a horrible mistake and ruined my life. I really believed I was male, but I will never be male, and now I can't be female again. I'm effed. From the comments. One commenter adds, I'm so sorry. I feel the enormous pain in your words, and I'm so sorry you are having to live like this. You will always be female. You made some changes that, in the end, you didn't like. We all make mistakes. But I don't think you'll find that, with time, those changes will lessen. Time really does heal everything. I know it's so painful, but don't ever give up. You'll see. In some years, you'll look back and feel it was worth it to tough through this pain. You will come out on the other side. I just know it. For now, it's going to be unbearable. But you'll make it. I've seen it happen for others, and it will happen for you too. Don't give up. I am so sorry. Another commenter adds, you are a female who was scammed by the transgender industry. I can't tell you how sorry I am for that. I hope you will find some peace in warning other people. Next post, titled, Not all of us are from first world countries. Where I am from, being trans was something completely obscure until like 5 years ago. Being LGB was also quite obscure, and the vast majority of people, virtually everyone outside the biggest cities in the country, didn't even know any gay/bi person who was out. Much. But almost all trans people I've met online were either from the US, UK, Germany, or the Netherlands, and they have entirely different problems than the rest of us do. Trenders, TERFs, patriarchy, I have never heard any of these terms before I started frequenting online LGBT-related spaces. I am okay with different people sharing different struggles, but it's important to realize that these things vary greatly. I detransitioned because I realized transition did not help my dysphoria, and I still struggle with dysphoria regularly, but when I go online to talk about it, I'm met with a bombardment of criticism just because I do not hold some views that are virtually completely unknown here, or almost anywhere except for a few first world countries. I wish more people, trans and detrans, realized this and were more tolerant. Not all of us are TERFs or trying to erase detransitioners. We just struggle with our own problems and want to talk about it. We are not making a political stance about a country we do not have much to do with. Next post, titled, Am I making a mistake going on HRT to keep femboy aesthetic? I impulse bought HRT and I am now having second thoughts, and I thought I'd come here to ask for advice. I'm scared of twink death. I don't want to be 30 and sad I can't look good in girls' clothes anymore. I was told HRT would be able to preserve feminine aesthetic past teens/20s, and all the effects seems good to me. But a part of me says, what if I regret it? From the comments, one person says, let me rewrite the title with other words. Is it a mistake to alter my body and give myself health issues to maintain an aesthetic? How does that sound to you? Doing what you did by impulse is clearly immature. You need to let your brain finish developing and grow as a person before altering your body. Believe it or not, in these times, a lot of people and gender doctors will tell you it's okay to use HRT and that there's no harm. Guess what? That's not true. Another commenter adds, I'm 39, still consider myself a femboy and don't plan on dropping the moniker soon. I'd recommend against HRT. Try to adjust your perceptions. You don't want to be female or trans by your own admissions in this thread. And you use the term femboy. Femboys will look like boys in feminine clothing, and they don't have breasts. HRT has all manner of health complications, and will give you gynecomastia that may not be reversible without surgical intervention. You need one thing only to be a femboy, to be born male, and you have that already. Taking HRT will alter your body in a way to make you look trans, which looks noticeably very different from a twink or a femboy, and you may not be able to go back. You will look like you're in your 30s when you are in your 30s, regardless of how much HRT you take. You can't fight aging. By the time you get there, though, you may not feel that looking like you're in your 30s is all that bad. Another commenter adds, in my opinion, it's not a tenable long-term solution. Also, taking HRT doesn't stop a masculine form from continuing to develop according to the ratios of its structure. I have male friends who have started HRT as children, and I've heard from one friend in particular that the difference between the way he looked at 17 and the way he looked in his mid-20s, being HRT at both times, he noticed that he had clearly further masculinized despite being on a correct level of HRT. These ratios and so are set real early in the womb. While HRT can trigger other ratios to develop, hip growth, etc., it doesn't stop the bones from growing in according to their genetic sequence. Another commenter adds, 1. Plenty of men can still rock women's clothing into their 50s and beyond. Don't let a weird culture of putting youth on a pedestal let you have a bad self-esteem. If you're worried about aging significantly, just small things like working out a little, eating healthier, not smoking, not drinking excessively, and wearing sunscreen can make people look decades younger than they are as they age. 2. There's no guarantee or really evidence at all that shows that estradiol and spironolactone will preserve youth. People who age and look less young and cutesy regardless of whether they are natal males, natal females, and regardless of whether or not they transition. You're being fed images of people who transition medically using female hormones who look like they're still in their teens, 20s, or very early 30s. A decade or two down the line, none of these people will still look like that, which is true for everyone. And 3. It sounds like your main concern is surrounding aging and not even gender dysphoria related. Really. I strongly suggest looking into ways that doctors recommend keeping your body healthy and young, looking and feeling, so that you can live a long, healthy, mobile, fit life and see where that leads you and if it alleviates any anxieties to get at the root of what you're feeling. Best of luck. Next post, titled, A More Complete Story of the Post. I inspired a project when I identified as a trans guy. This project is a movie script. The writer sent it to a contest and it was chosen. The thing is that he was actually surprised because he knows, and he said it, the script isn't a story you haven't seen before. He told this to my mom and said he would contact me to talk and ask me some stuff. He hasn't contacted me though. The only innovative thing this script has is this character, a sad 15-year-old who identifies as a trans guy. I don't want to sound mean, but I'm realistic and I suspect this character is a reason why this script was chosen. Since these days, this is what's being highlighted. Trans. I know the influence this can and will have to any confused teenager who is exposed to it. Because I was a stupid, confused teenager too, and this kind of content only pushed me deeper into BS. I'm texting him today to talk, express him my point of view, and see if he can modify this character to be a guy with depression. If the script is still supported with this slight change, great. If not, I know what this is about. There weren't any updates on this post in over 2 weeks. Next post, titled, Right-Wing Extremist LARPer. Apparently, that's what I am along with most others in this sub. Just liars playing pretend. I really wish that was true. Wish I could just turn my phone off and go about my life without worrying about anything to do with gender. But unfortunately, I have to think about it every single day as I walk about the world as someone who doesn't quite fit. People don't know how to address me. At work, some people call me he and some call me she. I get questioning and confused looks regularly from strangers who don't quite know what to think. And I have to get painful laser hair removal once a month to undo what was done to me at 15 years old. The age everyone claims I should have only been on puberty blockers. Certainly not anything irreversible. I'm still trying to get my birth certificate changed back to female and my actual name. So every time I sign in at work, there's my fake name for everyone in my shift to see and assume I'm a trans woman. I look in the mirror and see not a normal young woman, but someone who has my acquired male features dotted amongst my otherwise feminine face, making me look strange and unnatural. There's nothing I would want more than to just be able to forget about ever being trans. But it will never happen. I will never get back my teenage years, which were entirely wasted on trying to be someone I'm not while burning every bridge I've ever had, every chance to be a successful person. I have no idea how to even exist in this world as a normal functioning human being. I'm just about to be 20 years old in a few weeks, and I have nothing to show for it. I don't care about political drama. I just want my life back. I want kids like me to be protected from having their lives ruined like I did. That's all. From the comments, one person adds, Oh my, I've been called a paid shill, turf, LARPer, glowy, fed, fascist. Truth really does drive people insane. But do remember, some people do just harass for the sake of harassing. Take good care of yourself, heart. Another commenter adds, "That's terrible to hear. I am so sorry. Though, one thing I have to tell you at least, you have not burned every chance you have had to become a successful person. You're still young, and it's not too late to become successful before you're actually dead. You hear me?" I released my first single when I was 31 years old. Music I wrote myself. And when I was 20, I had no idea I would one day want to write songs. You have no idea what life might bring you or what you may want to do. I would absolutely recommend art, any art to express yourself. Painting, writing, music, it's extremely therapeutic even if it never amounts to anything. Or other hobbies such as hiking or climbing trees or anything. You can still do these things. You can live life. Doing these things that won't be tied to your gender. There's a story about a man who desperately wanted to become an artist, but he wasn't good enough, so he became a police officer instead. Then he retired at age 61. He was now good enough to become an artist, and he did it. I just watched an anime called Osuma Ranking. I just fell in love with, based on a manga written by a guy who just all of a sudden decided to leave his job at age 47 to write his manga even though he had never drawn nor written anything before. And this anime is the best, I tell you what. So yes, you can do this. You can find something you enjoy and let it guide you, okay? You're not done. You're fighting to get back, and once you are, you have a story to tell. It's true we cannot turn back the clock. We can only march ahead. At least wiser than we were before. Right now, take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. Enjoy the things you just happen to enjoy because you're you. See if you can forgive yourself. The one who needs your loving kindness the most right now is yourself. Maybe when you're ready, you can speak up and help others avoid your situation. Then your teenage years will not have been for nothing. Trust me, you are not at the end of your life. You are at the beginning. This is only the beginning for you. Most of your life is ahead, and there's no telling what may happen or what you can do in the future. The people who talk you down are bullies and manipulators. Sadly, right now these behaviors have been normalized by social media. Most of these are spoiled, snooty young people who have never had to face any difficulties and just want to be on the right side of history so they can feel good about themselves. It's very selfish. But you're not. You were vulnerable and got tricked, so be kind to yourself. You deserve it. Another person adds, "It helps me to remember that many of the people may just be children. Certainly, that language implies they might be." Another commenter adds, "You and I both. I wish I was just LARPing because that means I wouldn't be suffering in constant pain, dealing with the fact I don't recognize my face, body, or voice. The fact I used to be 5'7" and now I'm 5'4" due to osteoporosis and bone density issues being worsened. The fact that I have to regulate my emotions so my heart isn't overwhelmed, and the fact that slowly my muscle in my body is wasting away and I can't rebuild it by any means. I went through laser hair removal for my facial hair and neck beard, and I once had, thanks to taking testosterone. The nerves in the 2 injection sites I use are royally messed up. If I could just walk away from this and forget that I had ever been failed to such a huge degree, forget the years of being gaslit into blaming myself for everything by my so-called trans community and numerous professionals trying to convince me I was a gender non-conforming trans man and I couldn't be a masculine woman. The horrendous time I spent in that god-awful institute that tried to turn me straight, but then went for the affirmative opposite way instead. They're going to continue to dismiss us because many of us don't want to shed our anonymity. Speaking against this is a huge risk, and it can also lead to attracting all sorts of wrong people." Another commenter adds, "According to them, all right-wingers are extremists, even the most neoliberal of the rhino Republicans." And another commenter adds, this is extremely common. It's been a political tactic for as long as politics has been a thing. These days, it's right-wing/alt-right extremists. A few years ago, it was racist and neo-Nazi. Go back far enough, you get the communist and even witch/devil worshipper. For the ideologically possessed, it's easier to label you as unreasonable and dismiss your perspective. If a person is blatantly unreasonable and the idea is so, then they can abscond any responsibility of responding to you. It's quick, easy, and convenient. And for those who care more about looking good to their party and friends, there's no downside. Just keep your head, stand your ground, and handle it the best you can. Simply responding, I'm not, and you have no basis for that accusation, is as far as you should go for defending yourself, as anyone levying this accusation isn't interested in honest conversation anyways, and you'll only sacrifice your mental health by engaging further. I know exactly how you feel. Know that you aren't alone. You're not being unreasonable, and the conversation will change. We just have to weather the storm as best we can. Next post, titled, I was expecting you to cite evidence. Why does everyone expect detrans people to have to provide evidence for every little thing we say about various issues? Well, where's the common evidence that letting kids transition is a bad thing? How about common sense? Would you let a 12-year-old get a tattoo? No. But sure, they can decide they never want kids or sexual function in the future. Makes sense. From the comments. Or one person says, or alternatively, them saying that we were never trans and have no say. Another person says, I am evidence. And another person adds, that is such a valid point with the tattoos. What about drinking, smoking cigarettes, going to war, owning a car, getting married, children, family? All of this is ridiculous. Another commenter adds, because in a world of bias, willful blindness and alternate perspectives, evidence is what blinds us. Data, theoretically, exists outside the realm of personal bias, so it's a good mediator. The issue is that this isn't always the case. Not only does their side state that personal experience, their truth, is enough, quite often, many activists are actively making it difficult to find and gather this very data. The mere attempt to gather information is considered bigotry. The other factor at play is guilt. If transitioning is nearly always bad, or at least bad frequently enough to necessitate extreme caution, then these people are guilty of contributing to a lot of suffering. They likely have friends, family members, acquaintances, and co-workers that are dead or miserable. And the guilt that would come with knowing they helped push that onto these people would be enough to drive them insane. So, they need something stronger, more concrete, to waver them. They think they are doing a righteous crusade to help uplift people. If you're going to change their mind, you need strong arguments. Let's say you had a child. Now let's say this child was suffering, chronically ill. Someone suggested a treatment, a medicine. You felt this was good, so you gave the medicine every day, year after year. Eventually, your child dies anyways. If someone approached you and tried to tell you the medicine you had given them not only didn't help them, but actively contributed towards their death, you'd want evidence for that, because such things might just break you. If you do find any studies, sources, or whatever have you, send them my way. I'm in the process of writing a documentary to hopefully shift this conversation. Regardless, try to understand why the person you're speaking to has this reaction. It'll help you break through and reach them. Next post, titled, Question. I have the impression that there are mostly female to male to female here. Is that because male to male aren't much present on this sub? Because women tend to regret more transitioning, or another reason? From the comments. If you look at the statistics for who is transitioning at a much higher rate, for example, as published by gender clinics in the UK, females are transitioning way more than males. It makes sense that if more females try to transition, then more detransitioners would also be female, just based off the numbers. And another person adds, Personally, I think it's because young women are more susceptible to being influenced by gender ideology. The book Irreversible Damage, I think that's the name, comes to mind, though I haven't read it. Now, the next post, titled, I'm tired of feeling evil for being honest about my experience. I detransitioned a few years ago and was active in the detrans community. I made close friends and felt secure having a group of people who understood what I went through. However, one of my social accounts was discovered by some of my trans and trans-supportive friends, and I was effectively cut off until I erased all traces of the account, re-educated myself, and apologized to them. I was absolutely never a rad femme or anti-trans slash transition, and my account made that clear. I was extremely careful about emphasizing that all my opinions were only reflective of my individual experience. I needed a space where I could talk things out, and I was villainized and socially punished for it. I lost access to in real life LGBTQ plus community spaces. I was called a TERF and a transphobe. And the worst part is that I effectively brainwashed myself over the following years to suppress the thoughts and criticisms I was having about my own transition and the greater trans community for the sole reason of not wanting to feel like a bad person. It stopped me from realizing I do regret transitioning. I wish I never heard the word transgender. It wasn't a part of some beautiful gender journey. It was a trauma response and an attempt to kill myself without actually ending myself. I can't keep doing this. I end up regurgitating politically correct things I don't believe anymore. But even though I don't agree with the words coming from my mouth, I know I will face worse consequences for being honest about my thoughts on my transition. My therapist encouraged me to transition as quickly as possible. She pressured me to start hormones the first time I saw her, even though I wanted to work on my other issues first. She insisted transitioning would essentially put a stop to my comorbidities and never examine them. I underwent surgery and extreme complications and experienced medical neglect from numerous professionals. I was a teenager. I'm not going to hash out my thoughts on everything because that's not what this post is about, but my point is that I lived this. It continues to effing haunt me every day, and I can't even be honest about the extremely harsh lessons it taught me because it's invalidating to others, or I get shut down for having stolen resources from real trans people, promoting transphobia, or refusing to take responsibility for my actions. Effing hell. From the comments. It isn't your responsibility for making sure other people aren't offended. You know your own intentions, and if other people want to twist themselves into knots to try and paint you as a villain, let them. Being pressured into staying silent by unhinged, emotionally charged individuals who can't act as adults is only doing a disservice to yourself and everyone who shares your struggles, or can benefit from what you have to say. It's a them problem, not a you problem. And just because it's a popular, governmental, corporate-backed opinion doesn't make you evil or wrong. Standing up for yourself or what's right has never been easy, but it's critical and worth doing. Another commenter adds, no matter what you believe, there will always be people who disagree. But the truth is the truth no matter what. Even if the majority of people are trying to silence it. You are being bullied. That's what's happening. But I encourage you to keep going. Drop the PC bull-ass where you want to and speak the truth. Another commenter adds, commenting on the section of the post where they talk about how they regurgitate politically correct things they don't believe. This is the part of what made me realize I needed to get out. I thought they accepted me for not living in a box set for me by peer pressure, which didn't suit me at all, but really, they just wanted me to live in another box. Part of finding good friends is definitely finding people that will tell you when they agree or disagree with your point of view or what you're doing, and also they'll call you out on things you do wrong or that are destructive without using shame and attacks and guilt to silence you. Your first paragraph shows they were not good friends. They sound like abusive partners just in friend form. It may seem terrifying to cut out the only friends you have at first, but trust me, knowing what I know, I'd rather have zero friends than friends. The friends I have now, when I admit something shameful to them, they listen and we talk it out. With my ex-friends, they would only listen if it was something I was allowed to feel. If it wasn't, they'd berate me and use every trick in the book: guilt, social isolation, withholding, flipping between fake kindness slash feeling, sad I was apparently such a bigot, and then viciousness, sometimes within the span of a minute. And then the same commenter is replying to a portion where they talk about the therapist encouraging them to transition as quickly as possible. I also get the impression from doctors and therapists a lot are there to push drugs first and help last. But for me, this was an illness-related, not transition. By then, my trust in therapists and doctors had been so shattered I didn't trust them. I've also had some try to push drugs with hands down the most side effects possible on me before recommending safer ones. I always do my research beforehand, but it's difficult. That said, I've had friends who've had good doctors and therapists, so there's that. I'm really sorry you went through this at all. If you can find anyone at all who is genuine and really does care for you, maybe, they can help you get out too. It'd have to be someone outside this circle since it's clear nobody there is sticking up for you. Another person adds, "You sound very introspective and thoughtful. I think many of them hate that. Your account made them look into their own shadows. I think so many people are disillusioned and in complete denial of their trauma. When they saw your account, they feel like their own identity is threatened. They're threatened by your bravery and to share your real experience because you wanted more real inner work despite your therapist pushing S on you. A lot of people in denial shut you down because you expose your own uncomfortable questions to themselves. It's sickening that they projected their own insecurities on you, but denial is one hell of a drug. Their shadows can't exist within them. They can't even face other people's shadows without literally attacking them." And this video's last post, titled, "I feel, and I quite frankly am, very alone." A quick warning for a brief mention of bulimia. Ever since I desisted from being a trans guy, a lot of the thought processes that I had then have changed quite a bit. I know in a post I made around 5 months ago, talking about me seeing a rise of girls my age, 14 to 15, identifying as non-binary or trans guys, I said those people were my friends, but I lied. They never were. Not because they were mean or anything, but because I couldn't truly be myself around them or connected as authentically as true friends should. Whenever I hung around these people, I barely ever contributed to any of their conversations because I was so scared of offending others. It's like I could never say what I truly felt without fear of someone being upset. But yeah, in result of me not being friends with them and being too afraid to talk to my other classmates, who probably had similar views to me, because of the fear of being cast out of a friend group that I was never really in, I was alone with no friends. The school year has ended and I'm still very alone. It's especially hard as now because I'm dealing with bulimia and I really wish I had someone my age I could talk to and relate to without feeling like a patient, you know? I'm sorry, I don't really know how to describe it. It just feels less warm. I often wish that I still identified as a trans guy and had the same thought process I had then. At least I'd effing have friends instead of being pathetically alone. I constantly feel so hopeless and that I'll never have friends again and that this will be my life forever. I'm just so sick of this. I wish I had friends. I guess I'm writing this because I need the slightest bit of hope. Or something. I don't know. I'm just tired of this ass. And that will be all for today. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.